And we are live. Hopefully it's actually working this time with audio that you can hear. I don't know if this is a separate stream if you're watching in this future, but I just started a live stream and the mic was not working, so whoops-a-daisies. We are back, and this time audio, in theory, is actually present, and you will be able to hear me. Can you hear me? Can I hear myself? Yes, okay, I just double-checked it. You should be able to hear me now. What happened? I did a live stream earlier, and I have the USB cable I have right here is very long, so I switched it out so that it was shorter, so it wasn't, because my wife's computer's here, so she can join in, swapped it out for a nice little short one. That USB cable apparently does not work. This one, I only need it to go about 6 inches. It's 6 feet long. It's way too much cable, but it works. So we are back with a cable that is the proper length, or excuse me, that's too long, but that works. Wife is here. We also, in the 5-minute delay there, baby decided to start freaking out. So, woo! Heart's racing just a little bit on all of this fun stuff. We are going to go ahead and get started. How is this volume right here? Louder? And we are almost to a normal volume level right about now. So, yeah, guys, you don't have to all say low audio. I am paying attention to it, trying to solve problems. You actually increase things at a certain point in time that makes it frustrating to find more comments. Wait, somebody wanted to get themselves banned right off the bat. There you go. Anyway, let's get started with A.R. Loudon. What is your favorite Nolan movie besides The Dark Knight? I don't think I've ever said that The Dark Knight is my favorite Nolan movie. So right off the bat, built into the question is the assumption that's my number one. It's not. Batman Begins runs parallel to it for me in regards to just that trilogy. They run parallel. There's different things about them that I like more than the others. I think in my ranking of Nolan films, I had Dunkirk at number one. I only watched, that was like right after I saw it. I don't think I would say that again, but maybe I would. I need to rewatch it to fully decide my take on it. I'd probably go Inception. I just think it's a wonderfully crafted film that's very smart in what it does, has visuals we've never seen before, and does a bunch of stuff that's interesting while being a big blockbuster that's fun to watch. So it works on a whole bunch of different levels, which I greatly appreciate. What do we got?
Super chat.
Got a super chat.
I haven't found it yet. I just saw the thing.
All right, well then.
Do you think Jumanji 3 stands a chance against Star Wars 9?
Yeah, I mean, the thought is like, oh, they're just gonna duke it out like this, and we can only have one big movie. It's Christmas break. I mean, just you can pick any month. Like, does Detective Pikachu have a chance against Endgame? Well, if you get like they're just going head to head, no, of course not. But that's not really the way things work. There's room for more than one film in the box office. So Detective Pikachu had a massive opening. It opened bigger than I thought it would open while being right after Endgame. So I think a lot of people, we underestimate how much space there is in the box office. And, Jumanji and Star Wars, there's overlap, but there's not that much overlap. So I think it's fine.
Super chat, Tripinator Machine, X-Men or MCU?
That's the whole question?
That is the whole question.
I mean, MCU by like 10 miles. Just by an enormous amount, I think, on every level. You can just watch my ranking of all the Marvel movies and how far up so many MCU films are versus where a lot of the X-Men movies are, says everything. How many really pretty kind of clunker X-Men movies are versus the number of clunker MCU films is better on every level. Better continuity, I think, better entertainment value. On almost every level, it's... I think it just hits on more levels, and just because you have a shared universe that's consistent, it brings out ahead for me. Try and do one and one.
Okay. Real quick, Miguel GC Gamer did a super chat, but no questions. So if you have a question, please try to send it in, and
thank you much.
I will try and read it. Have you watched the complete Alien, Predator, and Blade Runner sagas? That's the question.
Alien, Predator.
Blade and Predator. Yeah.
I mean, I've seen every single movie in every single one of those series. Yeah, and I think I've got them all on the shelf behind me. But yeah, of course, that's Blade Runner. Is ones that would be like the least watched by me. I've only watched Blade Runner 2049 one time, and I've watched the first Blade Runner, about once every 10 years or something like that. But Predator and Alien movies I watch all the time.
Super Chat Polo R, opinion on How to Train Your Dragon trilogy.
So I've got a ranking up on my channel where I talk about all three of them from back in February, just a few months back. So just modern way that I do them and everything. Very cool trilogy that's exciting, has some heartfelt moments to it, stunning visuals, amazing score. It's a when it comes to family trilogies, it's one of the great ones out there. But yeah, my whole take on it is I've got a video talking about it.
I'm sorry. Rank your children.
Rank my children. Okay. Liam likes to play video games with me, so he's in first. Chloe likes to do outsourced creative things with me, so she's in first. And Karis doesn't talk back to me, so she's in first.
Nice.
And Doggy Bo is the snuggliest of the bunch, so he's in first.
Super chat from McCaven Comics. I'm sorry if I said
Thank you so much.
Hey, Sean, what's your favorite moment in the DCEU?
The DCEU.
Yeah.
What?
I said
Yeah. The Martha moment, of course. The Batman warehouse fight's pretty great as an action sequence. It's almost certainly something in Man of Steel. I just don't know what it would be at this moment. There's just some real Superman-y type epic stuff in that film that I think hits really well. Maybe some of the stuff in Shazam has some nice heartfelt moments as well. Probably one of something, but I don't have one that immediately comes to mind. Favorites are tough to kind of pull up out of nowhere.
Are you going to watch the upcoming Marvel shows on Disney?
Yeah, absolutely. As someone with kids, getting Disney Plus seems like a pretty safe thing, obvious thing that we'd want to do. But yeah, I'll give all of them a try. They're probably going to be something I'll stick with. I'd be pretty surprised if I didn't fully watch all of them. If they drop all 8 episodes at once, it makes it a lot easier for me to say, yeah, I'll probably review the pilot or I'll review the whole thing right as it, but absolutely my plan is to watch all of them.
Super chat from GrayPaw123.
Awesome, thanks.
I love your videos and that you interact with your
Thank
fans
you.
so much. I got to talk with you in a comment section. My favorite movie is School of Rock. What do you think of the movie, as well as what do you think of Jack Black?
Yeah, glad we could talk. If you, just so you guys want to know, it's tough for me to respond to everyone in the comment section, but I'm still pretty active on Twitter, and I can respond to most people over there, or like on Instagram, if you send me direct message, things like, if you just, on Facebook, anywhere else other than the comment section, I'm more likely to respond. Instagram's probably the place where you have the best bet of getting response, and I get to a pretty high percentage of there if you send me a direct message. But as for School of Rock, I've only seen it a couple of times. I've had fun with it, but it wasn't one that was like, wow, this is hilarious. I wasn't all in on it like some people are. Jack Black, I think, is good in the right roles. I'm not as crazy about him as a leading man. I don't think his bravado is something that I like in the forefront. I like it as the secondary that people respond to. So like him in Jumanji, I thought it was great. Just like a real fun sort of deal. There's all sorts of movies where he's kind of shown up and he kind of like spices everything up. But when he's the guy up front, like in School of Rock, it's just too in your face, too potent of a flavor for me.
Would you rank Simon Pegg movies?
No, I don't really do a lot of rank the movies of an actor because it's impossible to do. Because he's probably been in 30, 40 movies. Some of those he's in it for 5 minutes. Do you include the Mission Impossible movies? So it's not something that's easy to do. And then you think like, was it Run Fatso Run? Is that one of his movies?
Run Fat Boy Run?
Run, fat boy, run. I was trying to remember what it was. Something like that that's kind of offensive. But, like, you guys haven't watched that. And so I could put this video out there. Oh,
owned it for like 7 years and haven't watched it.
Like you might have heard of that, but you probably haven't watched all of his movies. And I like to do videos that lock into a fan base. There's a group of people that actually care about or watched all of this thing, and so boom, I talk about it. But there's not a lot of people that have watched all of Simon Pegg's movies. A lot of people have watched all the DCEU films. A lot of people have watched all the John Wick films. Who has watched every Simon Pegg film? So that's where things like that don't happen. No, what I do need to do is more like top 5 Simon Pegg films. That's the thing that I need to start doing. And that's what, but I don't even know when I would do that. I don't have extra space in my schedule to add it. Those are the things that kind of go on inside of my head. But I want to do more of top of genres, top of directors, top of actors. That's Sean's thought process.
Super chat from Joey Jansen.
Thank you.
Are you excited for It Chapter 2?
Absolutely. Of course I am. Yeah, I really enjoyed the first one. And having horror elements, having kind of coming of age stuff worked really nicely. Horrors. Is that... Did I say that wrong?
Having horror elements.
But so the trailer dropped right before I was speaking at a Comic-Con a few weeks back, so I didn't do a trailer reaction. And trailer reactions, if you don't do it that first day, kind of doesn't matter, like, as a video. So I probably would get a copyright claim on it, so it wasn't something I could worthy of my time. But I finally got to see it in the theater, which is a better way to watch a trailer, on the theater, the proper context to see it. And I really dug Chapter 2 trailer, both that little 1 minute long intro with the creepy old lady and then kind of introducing everyone else. So I'm, of course, very excited for it.
Is it worth it to watch Supergirl?
No. It's one of those ones, like, it depends on what you're into and what sort of things bug you. I'm invested enough into the CW universe and kind of what I'm trying to do more things on here that it was worth it for me because of my channel. But there's a lot of things about it that just are extremely frustrating for me, that I don't understand what they're doing from the writing perspective and the perspective of trying to, like, appeal to a broad audience of people. I don't know why they would put some of these polarizing things in there in the percentages that they do. And so there's a pretty likely that it could frustrate you if you check it out. Someone asked about ranking the Smallville seasons. The problem with ranking a lot of these older shows that I have watched all of Smallville, I have watched all of Breaking Bad, I have watched all of Friends before. The problem with all these ones is that I watched them in the past, and I don't rank things based off of, like, old memories. I rewatch things. That's what I do. Like, I rewatched John Wick 1 and 2 within the last month. I'm starting to rewatch any Pixar movies I haven't watched in a long time, getting prepped for a while from now. I'm rewatching all the Illumination films. So all those shows, it's really tough because I'm not going to spend 200 hours rewatching Smallville. That's the problem with some of this. Can't rewatch all of Breaking Bad on a whim in a weekend. That's the reason I can't do a lot of these shows. Sorry for cutting it on you.
You cut in on me?
I took a question that you didn't ask.
Oh. Super chat from Rich Reviews.
Thank you.
Have you seen the recently released Star Trek DS9 documentary, What We Left Behind?
I have not. My sister kind of was trying to see if I was going to be able to go see it with her, and then she ended up going on a date night with her husband. I was about to say her brother to go see it. I was like, that was the weirdest sentence I almost said. She went with her husband to go see it on a date night last week because they did a Phantom event for it, but I haven't seen it yet. So unfortunately, I can't comment on it. But that was my story about it.
What about Game of Thrones?
That's no question. I haven't watched Game of Thrones. That's why I've actually seen seasons 1 and 2. The full response, like, why don't I talk about it on my channel? Why haven't I watched all that fun stuff? I just never have gotten as invested as everyone else seemed to. And since I'm not as invested, the fact that it's just so hard just doesn't, like, it makes it more difficult. Like, if I was like, I'm super digging at this, then I could push through that, but I wasn't as super invested as everyone else. Because I'm not as super invested in anyone else, I kind of enjoy being a little bit contrarian. I enjoy having a big cultural event that I'm not a part of, so I can just be the fun guy commenting on Twitter, like, making sarcastic comments. And then, for me, as someone that creates these videos, I knew if I binge watched all the seasons leading up to this final one, and then today dropped my ranking of all 7 seasons or 8 seasons, whatever it is, I knew that would be a hit video, like a huge hit video for me. But it felt off-brand. I'm known as a family-friendly. I don't use bad language. Even my joking about saying the word whore, I was like, am I a little bit too crass? Because I have a family-friendly vibe. I come from a church background. So the idea of watching and ranking a show that in the first episode, you got incest, rape, midget sex, incest, murder of a child or attempted murder of a child, like in the first episode, like it's just not on brand. And so that's like for some of you it might seem like, hey, why isn't Sean doing this? Like to me it's like that's not really the stuff that I spend a lot of time focused on. And it's like really intense, hard R, and when you have a channel as the nature of mine, it just feels off to me. And because I wasn't invested in it, it also was like it's pretty easy for me to not get into this. That's the full Game of Thrones story.
Super chat.
Thank you.
If you had to put an X-Men character in the MCU, who would it be?
Just one?
That's what it says.
Only one. Quicksilver. Quicksilver's who I would.
Bring him back? Or?
Both Quicksilvers, different timelines. Yeah, I had to pick one. I'd probably go with Magneto because we need a new villain and something grounded. So I think he opens up a lot of opportunities for a clever change of direction to go with our villain situation. So if I had to pick only one, that's kind of where my brain naturally went to, is I think he opens up some opportunities. If you went with two, then I'd go Charles Xavier, because once again, you can have these two different polar ideas without necessarily even having it the X-Men. You can have them as these side characters in this world that our new set of Avengers are trying to deal with this rising of mutants, and you have those two characters without having the X-Men show up just yet.
Have you seen the new Ted Bundy movie on Netflix?
Yes, so I've been getting a lot of tweets, direct messages about this movie. We watched it actually right when it came out, but like as I mentioned before, you didn't watch it?
Pretty sure.
That's right. You fell asleep or something like that. Like light entertainment, like had great dreams that night. Didn't you wake up too right after it? Yeah,
I didn't fall asleep. You started watching it after I was asleep, and I woke up.
Okay.
In the middle.
So I watched it. I thought there's a bunch of things about this that I really like. The problem with it, though, and I think this problem most people have, is that it's told from the perspective of the women in his life. Well, the ones that survived.
That's not funny, but oh my word.
You have a dark sense of humor.
Do.
But so it's told from the perspective of his lady lovers that, and because of that, it's this movie about this horrible, violent guy that's not really like all that violent at all. And so you feel like a movie about Ted Bundy, you want to see this serial killer guy, but horror about him. And then it's not that. It like basically jumps over that and it goes kind of straight to the trial. And so you feel like you missed something. You feel like you never get the big payoff that you want about who he is. But it's good. It's just not much more than that for me, because you just always feel like it never fully pays off. You never fully get him. You're seeing other people's perspective of him. Which, one thing that a lot of people didn't like is that you're like, oh, I felt weird because I was kind of like at times rooting for Ted Bundy because he's like played as charismatic and manipulating. And I know that he's like this horrible person, but at times I felt like I was supposed to back him. It's like, I liked that about it. That's because that's what happened. That's who he was. That's what made him so unsettling as this guy, because you like watch these scenes in it and he's like playing against the other prosecutors in the audience and you're like, I like this. Oh no, I don't like this guy. I just fell into his trap. That's one of the best things about the movie for me, is that gross way that he can draw you in. They nailed it up that disturbing part of him.
Do you like Infinity War or Endgame better?
I'm not going to answer that. I've made too many videos addressing that question. You got to go watch my videos and you'll get the answer to that one. But that's one, I've answered that repeatedly on my channel. I've dug in deep into it. You got to go check out my Marvel rankings. They will answer that one for you.
Have you seen Ferris Bueller's Day Off? And if so, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, of course I have. It's one of the classic 80s comedies. And so I've seen it many times over the years. It's a lot of fun. It's funny. It's got some emotion to it. Some, just lots of iconic scenes to it. You seem like really excited. Like,
it's the first movie I remember.
That's the first movie you ever remember watching?
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
I had, for like years, I had this like image in my head of the car falling into the pool, and I didn't know what it was from. And so then years after that, I guess the movie was on, and I was like, that's what I've been remembering. So, what's the first movie I remember watching? I
don't have a story like that about it. It's just one of the classic 80s films that of course I enjoy.
Sean.
That's me.
I've been watching since 16 million subscribers.
16 million subscribers? Are you
the future?
From the future? What?
Have you seen the movie That Thing You Do?
Oh, of course. I saw it in the theater. I probably saw it opening weekend when it first came out. I'm that age. Like, I'm the age of the people that like were there. So
Isn't the thing right now?
What?
I saw That Thing You Do in the theaters. Old. That's like a.
Is it?
Pick something random, and that's how old you are.
So I've seen That Thing You Do 30 times or something. I mean, I've seen an enormous number of times. Of course, I enjoyed it. Just such a fun, lighthearted film. If you're like a younger viewer that don't know what we're talking about, look up this film. It's called That Thing You Do. It's written and directed by Tom Hanks, and it's just this charming little film about a band that called the Wonders or the Oneaters that write a song called That Thing You Do. That they get a new drummer and he peps it up, and it becomes this big hit single, and they go off to be a hit band, and it's kind of the story of that. Just real fun, charming film. You got to check out.
One, it makes it feel like the song that they did is legit.
Yeah, like you hear it and you think,
classic.
like
I know this.
like it feels like a classic oldie song from the 60s or whatever, because this movie's set in like the 60s, and it's not. It's just a great song that they wrote for the movie that is as good as a song like this. Like the movies, songs like this that became big hits were just like this one.
We have not been talking for an hour. Your nose is already going.
Yeah, it's when you have me do this multiple times. Do we have like a bunch of super chats to fly through?
I see one for sure.
There's one I saw that was like this long, the expensive one.
Yes, I have it right now.
Okay.
I was just typing it.
Okay, good. Sorry, everybody. We're having a little chat over here. Sorry, we forgot about you.
We did not forget about you. Super chat from Rich Reviews. I watched the 4-part documentary about Ted Bundy made by Joe Berlinger, who directed the Zac Efron.
Yeah, it's the same guy did the
Ted
documentary
Bundy.
And the.
So he says, I preferred the documentary considering that he's a great documentarian, feature filmmaker. He is not.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. The document. Well, we haven't watched the whole documentary. We started watching the documentary, and it's like, why are you suddenly? You want nightmares? Aren't you afraid of death? Like, why? And she was the one that was like, let's watch all this stuff. So, but we haven't finished it. But yeah, I mean, I think that the documentary kind of gives you the gross stuff about him, whereas the movie is this other kind of thing. They're interesting as partners to each other.
Do you feel that the Far From Home trailer spoiled too much, i.e. MJ knowing Peter's secret identity?
Yeah, I mean, I said that in my trailer reaction video, that I thought it was weird that they would put that in the video, or the trailer. Like, those are the types of moments that you're like, oh, did they just do that? Like, you can tease that moment without going all the way into it. So what I'm thinking that scene might be is that we've got multiple Earths inside of the film, and so that's a different Earth. Or that could be, she says that, and like, that's her sense of humor. She goes, yeah, obviously you're Spider-Man. He's like, what? I'm not Spider-Man. What would make you think it? She's like, oh yeah, it's super obvious. Like, what? I'm not Spider-Man. He's like, yeah, obviously you're not. And then she'll like make some joke that's funny that I can't come up with on the spot. But that was weird that was in there. I thought it went pretty deep in what it showed. I thought it was pretty odd. But I'm guessing because potentially there's multiple Earths, I think they're kind of in this situation where they don't want to show all this stuff over here, so they're showing us deep stuff right here. That's what I'm guessing is going on.
I do have another...
Someone keeps asking about Master Chef Junior. Do we watch it? Yes. We watch it as a family. All the time.
Chloe insists that we watch it.
Yeah, my daughter loves it. So, yes.
Right now, she only likes watching the older seasons. She doesn't like watching the new stuff, which is weird to me.
That's very odd. But yeah, we watch Master Chef Junior all the time.
Super chat from Llama King Jr.
Thank you.
Thoughts on the Sonic movie and its criticism?
I mean, the criticism that they're solving is the look of Sonic, and that seems like the least of the concerns here. The big concern is like, you're taking Sonic the Hedgehog, which is set in this other world with running and coins and loops and stuff, that doesn't really have a plot that lends itself well to a movie, and they're setting it on Earth, and like Dr. Robotnik is partnering up with to try and figure out who he is, and so then it just looks super weird and campy, and Smurfs except faster. That's the problem. The problem here isn't that his eyes aren't big, which is a weird thing that they got that wrong. It's weird that they got his look right like that. I have that problem too with it, but so yeah, I like with so many of these things that I don't know I don't know why they would greenlight something that Hollywood just doesn't seem to know what to do with video game movies, and this seems to be another example of it. And so then they're like going for the lowest common denominator. My kids, who loved it, they loved that trailer, so maybe it'll work because my kids are like
classic Sonic fans.
Ugh.
I don't really judge that. Apparently, I missed a super chat. I'm sorry, from Noah Wagant. The question was, will we see more Parks and Rec rankings?
No, probably not. So what happened was it's just people didn't watch it. And so with the TV show rankings, I have to put a lot more time into it because there's a lot more episodes to watch. And so then I don't know if it's because the people that I don't know what happened, but the video just didn't do well. It didn't get the traction it needed to get for me to do more. So I don't foresee of doing any more of them because it just seems like too niche of an audience that it just didn't connect with people. So unfortunately, I don't believe so.
Would Groundhog Day make a good remake?
I don't think so.
What about Happy Death Day?
But there's a new twist on it. I don't know what you add to Groundhog Day. I don't know what new thing could be done with it. So it doesn't strike me as one to be remade because it hasn't really aged poorly because it's just this thing. It still works as is. There's nothing. It's not time bound in what they did, so it doesn't feel like something that it's like, oh yeah, if we did that now, we could add this. Well, you don't add anything with special effects. You don't change anything by the time difference. It's just the same idea with different people. So I don't see that being something that makes a lot of sense.
Okay, I've missed a few. I'm going back. Super chat from Disney fan. Can you talk about Disney next 7 years of movies?
I don't have the list in front of me, so it's a little bit tricky, but it's tough because I don't know where you want me to go with this. So they put out this deal where they're like, here's what we're doing for the next 7 years. And the most important things that stuck out about it was their dates for Star Wars movies and Avatar films, which is to say, starting in a few years, they're going to put out an Avatar film 1 year, the next year a Star Wars film, the next year Avatar film, the next year a Star Wars film. And there's 6 years of Decembers are Avatar, Star Wars, Avatar, Star Wars, Avatar, Star Wars. What do I think about that? I hate this whole Avatar deal because James Cameron in the 20th century is one of the greatest directors on planet Earth with an incredible resume. And then he got kidnapped going into the 21st century. They shipped him off to Pandora and he stopped being a filmmaker. And now he just makes documentaries about Pandora. I'm not really interested in that. And Avatar is not Star Wars. So they could put the first one out and it bombs and they throw this whole plan out. As for another Star Wars trilogy, but taking some time off, I think that's a good idea. I think taking a little bit of time off and coming back in a little bit and trying to do it then, I like that idea. Other stuff on there, they didn't tell us what Pixar movies are coming. They didn't tell us what MCU films are coming. So that's, I think what I could give you right there is my best take on it without knowing specifically what you were going for.
Super chat, The Shadow. The Shadow reviews. I watched X-Men for the first time today. 5 out of 10.
Oh, that's brutal. I get where you're coming from. It's not a great film. It's very important, and you have to factor in, this is one of the 3 movies that kick-started the current modern era of comic book movies. Blade was kind of the first one that was like, let's cut a new path. Then X-Men really cut the path, and then Spider-Man ran down at full speed ahead. Incredibly important film. Understand that time has passed. I understand that certain things about it aren't the best, but 5 out of 10 seems a bit harsh for that film.
Super chat, Moustache123. My family and I are big fans. Thoughts on Batman
TAS, the animated series. I think it's the best animated series of all time. There's so many things about that show that should not exist. This was a show that aired at 4 p.m. during school days, and they had an actual score for it. Not computer synth stuff. They had an orchestra doing the score for it. They drew backgrounds on black paper. They invented new techniques. It looks ancient but timeless at the same time. And it was for fifth graders, which I was at the time when it came out. But it had the depth for something that adults could appreciate. So I think it's the best animated show of all time. That's my take.
Do you think Endgame can beat Avatar in worldwide gross?
Yeah. I mean, if Disney wants it to, it will. Whether it will or not just running its natural course, we're within 200 million. So it's made, what, 2.5 billion already. 2.5 billion. So if it makes 10% more, based off what it's already made, 10% more, then it passes it. So, but it's winding down a little bit. It only made $30 million this weekend in the U.S. So I didn't know what the international number was, but like it's still bringing in money, but it's also a stretch at this point. Like it's not obvious it'll get there. But Avatar was released in theaters multiple times. They put out an extended cut. They did things and they boosted their numbers up just a little bit. If Endgame plays that same game, it can get there if they want it to. That's just a question of if they want it to or not. If that's something that they're like, we need to beat Avatar, all they have to do is right before the Blu-ray release say, hey, we're going to see it in the theater one final time. We're put 2 extra scenes in there. Be a part of this cultural event, the end of an era. Boom, one more, like, just do that, and it gets $50 million more dollars, pushes it over, they win. But they own Avatar now, so they're still winning.
Could you explain how you met Cody Leach? You and him are my favorite YouTubers right now.
It's real simple. There's no like story or anything to it. The way that I met Cody Leach is that we both started on YouTube about the same time. I was about, I think, 6 weeks before him that I started Sean Chandler Talks About, and then he started doing his deal. And whenever I started my channel, pretty soon afterwards, a guy named Ryan O'Toole just commented on one of my videos and was like, hey man, I got a channel. Let's try and be buddies as movie reviewer people. I'll watch your videos, you watch my videos, and we can be buddies. And I was like, yeah, that's a great little strategy. You can meet other movie reviewers and like partner up with them. So Ryan O'Toole, I did a video on his channel 3 weeks ago, a month ago or whatever, talking about Captain Marvel. Like I still know him 2.5 years later. We still interact very regularly. And so I saw that and I started doing the same deal, and I met every other guy that was around the same size as my channel. I tried to go out and meet them. And so I was just trying to find people, and I believe it was his Bloodfather review. I believe that was the first one I found. And it was this guy, Cody Leach, does this review of Bloodfather, and it's a Mel Gibson kind of thriller, not a little bit of action, not really an action movie, more kind of tension than full-blown action. And I watched this guy's review, and he's saying everything in his review that I'm going to say in my review or said it in my review. I was like, this guy's saying exactly what I'm thinking. And so I commented on it like, hey man, I got a channel too. And that's kind of where we met each other. I believe it was the Bloodfather reviews where things started. And then sometime in fall 2016, not too shortly after that, we started kind of chatting on Facebook and started a Facebook little chat. And there's Tyler Tompkins and Durbin and Durbani in there. And then a guy named Jeff Malicki of Jeff Ita's movie blog also kind of got in there. And we had a group chat that we still have today. Like we were right before this, an hour before this went up, we were chatting. Cody was in there too and everybody. So almost every single day for 2.5 years, we've just been talking in that group and done movies together. Unfortunately, or tragically, Jeff Malicki, the person I mentioned at the end, passed away from cancer about a month ago. And but that's the context of where I know Cody from, is this group we've literally done live together, done YouTube together, grown on YouTube together, and then even had some tragedy of just real heartbreaking news within the last month.
Yeah, it's been that long already?
I don't know the specific.
It just seems like yesterday.
No.
Still seems fresh.
Well, that was pretty dark where that one went, but that's the positive story. One of my best YouTube friends, Cody, that's where it came from.
I'll go to something silly. Advice on talking to girls. Please, Sean, I need help.
Depends on what your problem is in talking girls. I mean, the most important thing you can do is just remove anything weird. Just figure out what the weird things you do are, and just make them apparent to you and like cut it off. Hopefully not literally, but just figure out your weird things that are just block people from connecting with you, or just like that are off-putting. And maybe that means kind of go to some people that know you in real life, that people you can trust, people that aren't just jerks, and be like, hey, I'm having trouble talking to girls. What am I doing that's off-putting? Like, what am I doing that's like this? What am I doing that's too weird? What am I like? Am I too forceful? Am I being too nice? Because there's like, being nice is awesome. Being nice is great. Girls want you to be nice. But if you just feel like you're like desperate to be too nice, like unnaturally kind, that's not good either. So it depends on what your problem is. But I think that's the key thing, is identifying what you're doing wrong. Beyond that, I mean, find a girl that seems to have the same interest in you and talk to her the way you talk to anybody else. I mean, that's it's kind of the same principle as making friends, is just find someone with common interests and you talk about it. It's also always easier to ask questions. That's another key thing. Just find a good set of questions and then look for something you can grab hold of and go with it.
Dating with Sean Chandler.
Oh, there's more nuggets where that came from.
Oh, my word. Do you like Amazing Spider-Man at all?
The first one, yeah. I put out my Marvel ranking of all 58 movies, and I'm not particularly harsh on the Amazing Spider-Man at all. Like, I'm not super high on it either, but it's like right there in that mediocre middle. Like, I don't have any hate for it. I've praised many aspects of it.
Is John Wick worth watching?
Yeah, I mean, if you don't like action movies, no. If you're a fan of action, it's like a must watch. It is the premier action franchise of right now. So if you like action movies, and it's a straight up action movie, we don't have a lot of those these days. We have blockbusters that have action, but we don't have straight up action movies like we did in the 90s, 80s when I was growing up. So this is the one that seems to be cutting through, that's getting respect, and people like it. So if you like action movies, it is a must watch. And it's good.
Have you ever cried in a movie?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a particular. I don't know, like I don't go full blown or anything, but I can start to feel the tears in my eyes a little bit with some stuff, and like it can like swell up my emotions and stuff. So, normally, I don't know. I don't have a specific thing that triggers me too much, but it's probably like family dynamics and daddy issues and making people proud and things like that could probably do that for me.
Would you rather be a wizard in the Harry Potter universe or a Jedi in the Star Wars universe?
What was the question? All right, Star Wars, because I don't like Harry Potter. Got a couple super chats. Mythics123 says, this is the best channel I've ever seen. Thank you so much for that. I greatly appreciate it. Joy Jensen with the super chat.
Oh, no. I can't understand what you just said.
Then you got to catch. You can't miss these. Joy Jensen was a super chat. Any thoughts before Aladdin is released? Any thoughts? I mean, I have lots of thoughts. I mean, I really like this toy right here. My nose itch, that's a thought. Miss Can is about half full. Oh, you probably mean about the movie. So I'm seeing it tomorrow night with my sister. Should be a lot of fun. To go watch that one, because back in the day we had the Aladdin cassette tape, so like I've got nostalgia for remembering that one. She's I guess she would have been in high school. I think she was a freshman when it came out. I was a fifth grader. So, maybe she had a different nostalgia than I did, but now that we're going to go see this one, I think it'll be pretty cool. It feels like an incredibly unnecessary cash grab adaptation. I think getting Guy Ritchie sounds like a terrible fit. I think Will Smith seems like a good fit. If you're going to have someone that's not, like, you can't do Robin Williams again. So who's someone that equally has that level of energy and charisma, but it's not the same at all? Will Smith. I think it's a great fit. So yeah, those are my quick thoughts on it.
Someone said I'd want to be a wizard in the MCU.
That'd be cool too.
I would be a wizard. Not that anybody asked.
Ugh.
I feel like the wizards in Harry Potter have a longer life expectancy than Jedis in the Star Wars universe. Let's see. Would John Krasinski make a good Plastic Man for DC?
Yeah. I mean, if they decided to go in that direction, I mean, I think he looks like a cartoon character, so when you take a sillier character like Plastic Man, then he would naturally fit that. I don't know why he would do a Plastic Man movie, but I think they would benefit from having him as Plastic Man.
DreamWorks ranking?
Someday. I just need a release. What's their next... Find out what their next release is, and maybe that's when I'll do it. But, I mean, I'm not going to do it like Random Tuesday, like I mentioned on many other things about this. If you just randomly drop a ranking of something on a Tuesday with no event causing it, no one watches it, relatively speaking. You drop a DreamWorks ranking when they have a new release, does this. You do it Random Tuesday, it does this. But DreamWorks is a lot of movies, and it's not a category that I think a lot of people resonate with. So I don't know how well it'll do anyway. So I'm pretty nervous about it. Because it's a lot of movie watching. It's like 36 movies times 2 hours is 72 hours. 72 hours of movie watching to make one video. That's why I don't do a lot of stuff like that. That's a big gamble as to whether that's worth my time.
Do you have a favorite Jim Carrey movie?
Yeah, Dumb and Dumber. You're the only person. You're the weirdo that doesn't like Dumb and Dumber.
You don't like Harry Potter, and your favorite Jim Carrey movie is Dumb and Dumber?
Yeah, this Harry Potter. They didn't think through anything. Like, there's Quidditch makes no sense, and there's all these irresponsible adults allowing kids to be almost killed playing Quidditch. Kids are like, there's an evil wizard taking over. Please protect us, adults. And they're like, you stupid kids. 50 points from Goobly-Doo, whatever it is. Yeah, not cool at all. You're missing SuperChats. Gregory Parr. Sup, Sean? I live in Round Rock, pretty close to y'all. Yeah, that is correct. We used to live. That's actually when we first moved back to Texas. We were in Round Rock. But now we're, as you know, not in Round Rock, but very close to Round Rock, right next to Round Rock. And I went to go see Endgame at the Outlet Theater and actually ran into a couple people there. So, maybe sometime I'll run into you as well.
Thoughts on the CW Batwoman show?
I literally, full story. So I put out a video on the Batman casting Robert Pattinson deal, and I shot it with my phone, 4K and everything. The reason that I did that, the fullest reason, is that I had this whole setup to do a trailer reaction. I'd figured out a new angle, had a tripod set up and everything. I shot myself doing a reaction to the Batwoman trailer, and I was like, I just don't want to have this conversation. This isn't the thing I want to jump into. So I watched the trailer for Batwoman, and there's some things about it that seemed kind of cool. And there were a lot of things that seemed like they were leaning in on the dumbest aspects of the CW shows. Which is to say that what they like to do is they take Superman, tell us he's the best ever, and then have Supergirl knock him down to make Supergirl look good. So Superman, the ultimate superhero of all time, is used for the sole purpose of making Supergirl look good. And then in this trailer, they started off by saying, Batman left us. He doesn't care about us anymore. And so then this girl shows up and they kind of give her origin story. And she's like, I'm going to look at my cousin's stuff. And I'm going to go. So she goes and looks at the bat suit. And this guy goes, it's the most perfect suit ever made. And then she goes, not quite perfect. It'd only be perfect when it's on a girl. And then it ends with she starts fighting crime, and everyone's praising her, like, wow, Batman's doing amazing work, like he's saving the day. And she's like, Batman didn't do it, I did it. I'm not gonna let a man take credit for a woman's work. Just watch, why can't you just make a show that shows us how awesome you are? Stop telling us that Batman sucks so that you can make your character look good. Just make me like your character. I'm your target. Like, I should be, like, right there rooting for you. Like, oh, man, they did put out the trailer, Batwoman. She's beating these guys up. It looks like a cool origin story. I'm pumped about this. But instead, you're like, I just don't know what... I don't understand the strategy. There's plenty of room in the universe for Batwoman and Batman to be awesome. There's plenty of room for Superman and Supergirl to be awesome. We don't need to make these guys, call them stupid and lame, just so that the protagonists of your actual shows look good. I just...
Can you please do it? This is me, a new segment where you use action figures to describe plot points in movies. I feel like that's a good direction for you to go with your life. I would watch it. Super chat from Ryan Wiki. What are your thoughts on The Godfather?
Thank you. Yeah, so, I've never seen The Godfather 3. That's just never happened. It's not even intentional. It's one of those ones you always hear it's not so good, and so I just haven't watched it. And then I've watched The Godfather 1 and 2, I think 2 times each. They're not movies that I've watched a bunch of times. I watched them first time like 20 years ago, and then I watched about 10 years ago, and it's been a little bit since I've watched them. They're just, obviously great dramas, character studies, and then with what they did with the second one in, doing the flashback 2 timelines, Robert De Niro coming in, did some really cool stuff and found a way to take something that you should not be as good as it is, and like, how do you do a sequel to a drama and make it good? They found their way to do that, but I haven't watched them in a long time. They're just like, they're the big, long, very long, big movies that you don't just put on in the background. You got to sit down and watch them. You've actually watched them more recently than I have. You mailed in people. The Godfather. You read the question. Oh. You mailed in a person from Seattle to come and watch The Godfather.
It was not recent.
Exactly. I didn't say it was recent, but it's more recent than whenever I watched it. Next question.
It was before we had kids.
That was. It was a long time ago. Oh, Sean's nose.
Have you met Jeremy Jahns or Chris Stuckman? You are up there with them as my favorites.
No, not at all. No, they're... Jeremy Jahns is up in Seattle, and then Chris Stuckman's in somewhere, I believe, above the Mason-Dixon line. I'm in Texas. So Chris Stuckman was supposed to go to Fantastic Fest 2017, and I was at Fantastic Fest 2017. So had he gone to that, I would have maybe walked up to him and been like, hey, and shooken his hand or something like that. Clark Wolf, one of the people that does some of the Schmodown stuff and Movie Talk, she was at Fantastic Fest 2017. I didn't talk to her or anything like that. I did do one of these creepy, like, I'm sitting in my chair, she's right behind me, and was like, I'm taking a selfie. A creepy selfie with you in the background. It's one of those deals. I didn't even know where the pictures or anything, because I was like, that's a pretty creepy thing to do. And I would have, like, if I'd seen her again after kind of the first time I saw her, probably would have been like, hey, something like that, less creepy. But at that same event, also Thomas Jane ran into me. There's some other fun stuff. Elijah Wood was there. But of the people that are in the movie talkie space, those are my little take on that.
Who did you do the creepy selfie with?
Clark Wolf.
What is wrong with kids? I've done it about to make 50 times. Super chat.
Thank you.
From Sierra Moser, love your videos. How do you feel about musicals?
Like me participating in musicals? I mean, I like to think of myself as God's gift to mankind in regards to musicals. Or watching them is what we were talking about. Yeah, I'm not like a musical guy, but I enjoy movies. So it's not like if I hear something's a musical, I don't like, yeah, all right. But at the same time, I can have fun with them too. The episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer I've watched the most is the musical episode. The episode of Batman the Brave and the Bold is the one that I've watched the most is the Music Meister episode that's a musical. La La Land was a lot of fun. So, I don't, when she puts on Newsies, I don't rush out to watch it or anything like that. I've never watched Newsies, but many other things that I have had fun watching along with her that are musicals.
Have you watched Better Call Saul?
No. I was actually just talking with the guy I work out with about that show recently. I'll probably try.
Started it.
Yeah, we started it. So we well, I'll probably try and catch up before the show ends, and so maybe I'll do something with that in regards to that. Maybe that's when I'll rank the Breaking Bad seasons. We watched the first, I think, 8 episodes, and it was just like, we don't have cable, so we can't watch it normally, so I was just bootlegging the files or whatever. So that's kind of the backstory. There's no like easy way for us to watch it because we don't have cable, and we've never had cable. And so we enjoyed what we watched. We didn't have anything negative. We didn't stop for a reason that was show related other than it's on something we don't have.
When was your first kiss and how did it play out?
Our first kiss or the first person ever?
It says it doesn't include me.
It was
your first kiss. It didn't.
I think I went to go see Oklahoma, and then I kissed the girl as I took her home on the lips. Speaking of musicals, I love musicals. They're quite effective. But I think I went to go see, actually tying back to the same. No, this story gets weird. This is about to get weird. So the guy that I work out with used to date this one girl, and then he was in a musical called Oklahoma, and then that girl was dating me. And I went to go see my friend with her in Oklahoma. That he used to, and then we kissed the girl after that show, and now he's my workout partner. Years later, and he's the person I went to go see John Wick the other last week. Yeah, I didn't think anything of it at the time, but I'm stupid. I'm like really dumb, and I didn't know that was like socially weird.
Super chat from Ryan Wiki. What's your favorite movie by Al Pacino and De Niro?
Favorite movie by them together, or
I read it as it says. Interpret how you will.
Favorite movie from Al Pacino and Robert De Niro. I'm trying to think through because I don't like to pick favorites, and they're not ones that like I don't naturally gravitate towards like the Scorsese drama type ones. Like that's just not my niche, and that's kind of where they did their best work. Like that for 20 years, these guys haven't made the best choices. So if you want to go to the obvious pick, you go back to Godfather for Pacino. For Robert, I don't have a good one. I don't think I have a good one for Al Pacino. If I were to give some picks for movies that I would say that I'm not just giving the right answers, Chloe. No. Give some answers on this one. Meet the Parents, if you're going to go with a funny one. That's a really good comedy. Like, that's where Ben Stiller, there's him in that one. That and Thing About Mary. What was the title of that one? How's the Thing About Mary? Something About Mary. Something About Mary. That's the word I was looking for. Something About Mary and Meet the Parents are the ones that kind of like launched him, and then he was in way too many movies in a short period of time. But Meet the Parents is like a great example of what the last 20 years of his career should have looked like. Because it's like he did that one, and then he did a bunch of terrible comedies that he shouldn't have done. And then The Untouchables is another one. He's not the lead in it, but I love The Untouchables. Brian De Palma, Kevin... I was about to say Kevin Spacey. That's a different guy. Kevin Costner. And about Prohibition, Al Capone with De Niro as Al Capone. Very cool movie. Stylized. So if you haven't seen Untouchables, check that one out.
Super chat from Kenny Brennan. What is your favorite movie from the last 50 years?
My favorite movie from the last 50 years? It's pretty close to saying my favorite movie ever, because if you haven't picked up, I like modern films. I'm not a big classics guy. Except for Oklahoma, but that was a live stage musical, which is quite effective. Someone asked me about dating tips and how to talk to the ladies. Take your lady friend on a friend date to Oklahoma. You're probably going to get a kiss on the cheek, or at least someone is. It's getting weird directions here. I've just been talking to the camera.
Terrible advice.
That's amazing advice. Just don't be creepy. But favorite movie. I don't like to pick favorite movies. I don't like to do it. So I put out a video with my 10 favorite movie of every year I've been alive. If you give me a small enough category, I can pick a favorite inside of it. But when you go for everything, I like diversity. I like different things. So I don't like to pick a favorite. So I don't know what to tell you. I'll give you a list of movies that I enjoy. The original Star Wars trilogy, Die Hard, Terminator 2, Terminator 1, Aliens, Back to the Future, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Those are some amazing movies. Rocky. Amazing movies that I love from the last 50 years. And Oklahoma.
Of course. Have you watched Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
No, she has.
Oh, I tried, guys.
She's going to rank the seasons.
I am not. That's not my thing. No one would want to listen to it anyway. My favorite thing about Brooklyn Nine-Nine was some sort of clip that was circulating on Facebook that made me want to watch it. And then I watched it, and I just couldn't do it. I watched a lot. I gave it a good chance. Do you like horror movies?
Sure. I mean, you look at my channel. I've ranked a whole bunch of horror franchises, and I can have fun with them. The different types of things. I mean, I kind of watch the ones that I kind of watched growing up, just staying up late, was Friday the 13th. Like, they showed up on TBS and TNT, and I'd like secretly watch them so my mom wouldn't know. And then the Scream movies came out while I was in high school. So that was like, those are like the ones, those Kevin Williamson self-aware horror films are the ones of my years of when I started going to the theater and stuff by myself. So, yeah, but I enjoy horror.
I must know. Where did you get that Flash figure you have in your background?
That one right there. I have a playlist, or not a playlist. I have a link in my video. Most all of my videos that's a link to my gear, my Funkos, and my action figures. I haven't added this one in the good. I just got it on Amazon. It was under $20 too. It's not expensive. But that one is not in there. But you just Flash action figure. You should be able to find that one. But yeah, my newest edition.
Super chat from Joey Jansen.
Woohoo! Thank you.
Best Star Wars movie since 2015.
Since 2015. I did say to narrow things down, so I guess 2015 is Force Awakens. He cut that one out. Best one since then. Rouge 1, I think, is easily, I think, the best if you cut out the Force Awakens, Rouge 1. Or if you include Force Awakens, if that's what you meant, 2015 to now, Force Awakens. But I think those first two are the two best. Solo, I just think is just like it's a mediocre fun adventure. Not great, not bad. I don't have any hate for it or anything. Answers some weird questions, gives me some weird answers to questions I wasn't asking, but I don't have any big ill will for it. I don't think it's like the worst thing ever. Certainly not the best thing ever. And The Last Jedi has some beautiful scenes in it, some good scenes in it, and a whole bunch of very odd decisions that I do not understand. That if I were handed the keys to Star Wars, these are not the directions I would take things. This is not what I wanted, and it subverted my expectations, but I don't know that was a good thing. Sometimes my expectations aren't bad things, so I would go with the Rouge 1 if we're not putting Force Awakens. And if Force Awakens isn't, that's just a fun Star Wars movie. A little bit derivative of A New Hope, certainly, but fun. Mildly. There's like almost no similarities between it and A New Hope, besides the obvious.
I am supposed to tell you that I love you 3,000. I love you 3,000.
Did like Larissa tell you to say that?
I don't think so. Someone did, but I don't think it was.
They love me. I don't know. Sometimes she's in these deals. So her and Elaine are always afterwards like, I was watching your live stream. But you said it weird. Are you telling me that you love me 3,000? Someone else had to.
They told me to tell you that I love you 3,000.
But is it you're telling me for them, or you actually love me 3,000? Because you're
telling me to tell you I love you 3,000.
You're not answering my question.
I do love you 3,000. Is that what you mean?
You're not saying who is saying they love me 3,000. You just answered it separately. Okay,
no.
So you are the one that loves me 3,000, but you had to be told by someone else to tell me that.
Say that, yes.
You guys heard it right there, everybody.
Oh, someone said I should get a channel. Not happening.
She doesn't enjoy being in front of me. You missing some of these super chats. Watley Hensley, what else are you interested in? Politics, sports, with Super Chat. Thank you so much for that. What else am I interested in? I very much do follow politics and have different things that I listen to. I actively try not to address any of that on social media, like at all. Sometimes I'll address the conversation about politics, but I don't feel that it's my place. I have a platform, but it's related to movies. It's related to entertainment, and it makes me angry when people leverage their influence about entertainment. Hollywood does this all the time. They're good at pretending to be someone else, and then they leverage that influence to sway people in regards to things they're not experts on. That's not what their platform is for. I'm not crazy when they do that, so I don't like to do that. I'll try and sway people in regards to thinking better about issues, but not picking sides. I don't like to... Like, I unfollow people, even though I very much follow politics and all kinds of things. In certain regards, if like my Twitter, if anyone starts lighting it up with political stuff, whether I agree or disagree with them, I just block them because I don't want to get involved in their drama and things like that. Like people I know in real life that, in theory, I probably agree with them point by point on stuff. I blocked them on Facebook a while ago because I just don't. I follow it on my terms, not on the craziness of. So I don't chime in on it anywhere. But I do fantasy football, but I don't really follow sports. I have fun with UFC, but I don't really follow it. I'm always behind, so people sometimes will see me wearing my shirt and everything. Like, oh, who do you think's gonna win this fight? Like, I'm too far behind. Like, I don't know. I gotta watch old fights when they're easy to watch for free or whatever. But what else do I follow? I don't have too much going on in my life right now, just because this is so encompassing to my life. But
you have a lot going on.
Yeah. But I mean, is it just YouTube right now?
Like random trivia, but it's tied in. Like all of your interests are generally tied in with this.
Yeah, it all kind of ties together. So something like.
Does Cookie watch you?
Or is this? That's a different Caleb Cook.
Oh, how funny!
So he was asking Caleb Cook. You were asking stuff before. He's in the previous live stream, and I asked if I know another guy. We call him Cookie. Is the guy that we know in real life. Call him Cookie. Kenny Brennan had a super chat. No question. Thank you so much for that.
Oh, I think I got his.
Okay.
Oh no, I already asked it.
Dark Fiend X with a super chat, no question. Thank you so much for that. I greatly appreciate it. If you have a question, maybe my wife can catch it. All right, let's get back to a question.
Expectations for Toy Story 4?
Disappointment. I don't know.
Even with Key and Peele?
I don't know why would Key and Peele.
I'm just asking.
They've always had great. I'm not in question of whether the voice talent will be good, but I just don't know why they're going back to it. The trailers have not been good. They're not dreadful. They're not like an embarrassment, but they just feel like more Toy Story. And it's a movie that you need to convince me why we're going back to the toy chest. Because you ended things well. Like you felt like you had this Andy arc that came to a close. Why are we going back to the toy chest? Like what? And the trailers haven't really sold me on what that is. And there's like some weird stuff, and they're like, hey, look, a spoon with an existential crisis. Like kids love that, right? Spork that wants to kill himself and jump out the window. Kids love
what?
Because he like, what's the point of my life? And he jumps out the window. Like that's not like I don't know where you're going with this. And so it seemed like there's a lot going on, while at the same time feeling very familiar in the bad sense. So I'm not pumped about it.
Favorite Arrowverse villain?
Probably the two originals of the two shows, Malcolm Merlyn and Thawne.
Early Malcolm Merlyn.
Both. That's the fun thing is that there's the in and out of all of it. That he's still a villain later on, even though sometimes he works with them. But he's has that.
While we're in that universe, Arrow or Flash show?
I don't know. It's tough. Both of them started really strong. Both of them got weird, like super weird. I don't know if it's like that Greg Berlanti just got too spread out, or that I don't know what the deal is, but like all of their shows just I think have really not been. They've been dropping the ball the last few years or so. So it's tough to say. I don't know that I could pick.
Have you watched the Tremors movies?
So I mean, I've watched the first one, 50 times or whatever. I mean, it's classic, little simple adventure, a little bit of horror, a little bit of comedy, a little bit of all of it. So if you haven't seen Tremors, it's got Kevin Bacon. You got to go check it out. It's the first one's really cool. I've seen the first 4, I think. I don't even remember what some of the ones are. I know I've seen the second one several times. I know I've seen the one where they go to the Old West at least one time. And I think there's one more that I've seen. But I haven't seen all of them. The more recent stuff I haven't watched. I didn't watch the TV show, but, where things started off, I watched a bit.
Will you ever rank Alfred Hitchcock movies?
No. Maybe I'd do a top 5, but, and maybe this is me being picky about language, but our top 5 is 5 movies. A ranking is all the movies. No one's watched all of Alfred Hitchcock movies. I mean, someone has. I mean, I don't mean to exaggerate that, but, how many of my subscribers have watched every Alfred Hitchcock? How many of my subscribers, my 111,000 subscribers, have watched every Alfred Hitchcock movie? I don't know if any of them have. I mean, statistically, it wouldn't surprise me if some had. It also wouldn't surprise me if none of them have. Because it's like, he did 50 movies. He did an enormous number of movies before he had this very prolific section of output that's all of his classics from 1955 to 65. He puts out all of these movies that are Psycho, The Birds, North by Northwest. But he was doing movies 20, 30 years before that people don't talk about nearly as much, or they're these secret, lower, lesser known classics. So I just don't do videos for that people haven't watched them. I'm not trying to show you, no one actually, you don't watch a ranking about movies that you haven't seen. So if I rank all the Hitchcock movies, that's not of interest to very many people. If you rank all the John Wick movies, everybody can join in. Not, everyone's seen the movies, which was apparently a lot of people this weekend, can join in on that one. Same with, when I would do this current Godzilla trilogy in a couple weeks with Kong Skull Island. A lot of people have watched all 3 of those movies. They haven't watched the Hitchcock movies. So you can apply that to all kinds of people. You can apply that to one of the reasons I wouldn't do Scorsese would be difficult to do, or Stanley Kubrick. People know 5 of his movies and they ignore all the other ones that he did from before 2001. Got a couple super chats. Chris Scanlon, would you ever rank the Seinfeld seasons? Almost, probably not, because I'd have to rewatch the whole show. So it's rewatching 7 seasons, 40 hours of work for a video that I don't know if anyone will watch it. I don't know how well it would do, because there's not a new season dropping. There's not an event that would make it of interest. So, I mean, you think about that. 40 hours of work for something that maybe a very few people watch. And like I say, maybe 10,000 people watch it, but 10,000 people watching it translates to $10 or $20. 40 hours of work for $20. That's the stuff that I have to factor in. In 40 hours of watching Seinfeld, that's a lot of movie franchises I can't watch to do other rankings. That's where TV shows are very restrictive in how many of them I can actually do for my channel, is because of that. Ryan Wiki had a super chat with no question.
Yeah, I'm looking for his question, but I haven't seen it yet.
Thank you for that. Nose.
How come you don't open the box of your Funko Pops? It's a great question.
Because that would be hideous on my shelf to have non-symmetrical things.
Oh my word. Is that the only reason? That can't be the only reason.
What else would it? I mean, why would you want non-symmetrical?
Would you not get
this
them
is
if
a
you didn't
square.
have a channel?
Squares.
Those are
Lines.
Rectangles.
Lines. Straight lines. Straight line boxes. It'd be hideous if they weren't in them. They wouldn't pop as much.
Ha ha ha, you're so funny. Would you be interested in an MCU movie directed by Steven Spielberg?
No. Because it wouldn't work. Because he's not... Is Steven Spielberg going to take notes from Kevin Feige? No. You run into a situation of where on paper it's like, oh, if you take the greatest director of all time and have him direct a movie in this universe, the universe works because Kevin Feige's running a tight ship. Well, it's just ruined Ant-Man by having kicking Edgar Wright out. Like, depends on what ruined means. They made a movie that fits in their universe better. If you remove all other context and you just say, would Edgar Wright or Peyton Reed have made a better Ant-Man movie? Edgar Wright probably would have made a much better Ant-Man movie. But we're not living in a vacuum. The movie doesn't exist in a vacuum, so you have to factor all those things in. Steven Spielberg is a guy that does Steven Spielberg movies, and I don't think he's become kind of an old guy that doesn't have. He's not particularly interesting anymore either. Best of all time. I don't think he's all that interesting, so I don't see what the benefit would be to an MCU film directed by him.
Have you seen Sliders?
No. I mean, I've seen some episodes, but I haven't really watched Sliders.
Is it current? I don't know what that is.
Isn't there O'Connell in it?
Jerry O'Connell?
Thought so.
I don't know.
Yeah, look it up. Sounds like maybe you got a homework assignment.
Have you heard anything about the X-Men-ish show entitled Legion? It's a really unique spin on mental health and telepathy that I definitely recommend.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the first, I think, 3 episodes. I'd heard, oh, it's amazing, it's all trippy and weird. It just didn't draw me in. And so it's kind of, I'm pretty busy with a lot of other things that I'm obviously, to do all my rankings, I have to watch a lot of movies. To do the TV show rankings, I have to watch a lot of TV shows. So I tried it. It didn't click in the beginning, so I didn't keep going. It wasn't like anything, I didn't hate it. It just didn't hook me in. And it wasn't one that I could just put on in the background and follow along because it's so trippy, weird, and mental health. You have to keep, like, dedicate to watch it. I just couldn't do it at the time, so I haven't seen too much of it.
What did you think of Scarlet Witch in Endgame, and where do you want Marvel to take her?
Scarlet Witch,
yes.
Not Black Widow.
Correct. Scarlet Witch.
So many colors. I mean, she's in the movie for 3 minutes throwing down on Thanos. So that's cool. It's a very cool scene. It's, the whole end battle is basically, all right, now we're going to show this person and do a flashy scene. Now we're going to show this person and do a flashy scene. So it's designed by nature to give everyone everyone that gets a moment, an awesome moment. So she gets an awesome moment thrown down. So of course that's cool. But it's also superficially like, which lady that can throw things throws things at Thanos? There's not a lot to that.
Who is that speaks that way?
That's my impression of you.
That's what I sound like?
Yeah.
Cool.
Where do I want them to take her? Well, she's getting her own series that supposedly takes place in the 50s or something. I don't know if that's real. I don't know how that would work. But I don't have any thoughts on where I want her to go because they haven't really given her a clear path. They have not made it obvious where this character should go or where I should want her to go, other than like, see, she can throw stuff and she loves Vision. And her brother. He's gone. So like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this because they haven't given her that. So I don't know. Question, lady.
Oh, me.
Yeah, if I stop talking, that's probably your turn.
Well, sometimes you take pauses, and I just don't know. What are your thoughts about a new Indiana Jones movie? The second new Indiana Jones movie.
The second new one?
But I assume not the Crystal Skull, the next one.
Crystal Skulls was over 10 years ago, so it's not really new.
That's horrifying. They're
Because
doing another one?
Because we saw it at the drive-in. Oh. We lived in South Carolina. That was over 10 years ago. That's how long it's been.
I didn't remember we saw that at the drive-in.
Yeah, I saw it at the drive-in. It seems like a really bad idea to me. As I mentioned before, Spielberg he's not the guy that he was in the 80s. Like, he's, in a lot of ways, he's just not as fresh, but he also doesn't have, like, some of the bite. He's kind of sanded off the edges over the years. And then here's the simple problem of Harrison Ford was born in 1942 during World War II, which ended over 70 years ago. Hence, Harrison Ford, as of right now, is 77 years old. 77. They are not filming yet. As for what the shape of old men and keeping themselves alive and keeping themselves looking good, by that standard, Harrison Ford's doing a great job. However, Harrison Ford is not on the horse steroids that Sylvester Stallone is on. Like, he's not like whatever that thing that Stallone's doing to where he still has the body of a 22-year-old Olympic athlete. He's not doing this. Ford is not doing that. And the escapism of Indiana Jones is that he's this adventurer that's handsome and like the ladies all love him and the guys want to be him. That's not a 77-year-old man. Excuse me, they're not filming yet. That's not a 78-year-old man. So it just seems like a really bad idea. I don't know what the win is here for anybody. I was okay with the idea of like, let's get Chris Pratt or whoever else to like redo it. The original came out almost 40 years ago. So by the time this new one comes out, it will have been 40 years. 40 years, Indiana Jones reboot, fair game. With Robert Pattinson as Indiana Jones.
I wonder if that would be hated more or the Batman news would be hated more. I don't think either would be taken well.
There's a lot of people that are down for it.
I know.
There's a lot of people. Like I have some of the dumbest conversations about like he can bulk up. Like I know he can bulk up. That's not. You're not even listening to what my argument. Like you're not even attempting to make having a coherent conversation with me about what I actually said, what my actual issue was, and like people annoying me. Like if you don't agree with my criteria, that's fine. Like I know I don't. It's a very specific thing for me to specifically think. I don't like the idea that I'm 20 pounds heavier than Batman. That's a weird thought for me. Like I don't like the idea that I can beat up Batman. So I want Batman to be bigger than me. But if you don't agree with me, that's fine. That's not the same thing as some of the conversations I've been having, which are just like, you're not even saying real things. Like, oh yeah, you could just pack on the weight. You could do miracles in 6 months. Miracles? Miracles? If you're 6'1", 160 pounds and you got 6 months, you can put on 20 pounds and get up to 180. 180 is not a miracle.
Do you have a favorite franchise? Would it be Marvel? I didn't want to answer on your behalf.
Pitch Perfect.
Oh, excellent.
I mean, obviously Pitch Perfect and Pacific Rim. Anything with a P, really? No, yeah, right now it'd be the MCU. I think it just, when you talk about being prolific and quality, MCU wins.
I got a question for me.
Okay, I can't ask you the question. You have the question, not me.
What was your first reaction to Sean Chandler talks about wanting to do YouTube, and did you ever imagine it would get this big? I don't remember what my first reaction was. I think it was like, yeah, go for it. Because you like to talk about movies and you like to make videos. So it was a good combination. So I feel like I've been supportive the whole time. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think at the time I would have thought we'd be at 110,000 subscribers and you doing this full time. Did I think you'd be successful, like have a good channel, have fun doing it, do good stuff? Yes. I didn't. That was never a question. But did I realize it was going to be your full-time job when you were like, "Hey, I'm going to do YouTube"? I don't think I saw that one coming.
I told you I was going to make it work. I told you.
I don't think you said, "Hey, I would really like to try this new job venture." I think it started as a hobby and it just slowly changed, right?
Yeah, she's always been incredibly supportive from the very beginning. Very complicated origin to where the story came from of all sorts of things that are on my end not good. and still in all that, she was very patient with me with this channel. And then going into, it started as just like a random hobby, like on a whim, July 2016. And going into 2017, I asked for permission to make it a bigger thing. And like, I need to be able to do this and this. It was like, I need to be able to go to the movies Thursday night, so I'm going to leave every Thursday night and go to the movies. Can I, like, do I have permission to do this? And she gave me full latitude to do all those things. And at no point in time tried to hold me back on any of it. So she's always been very supportive of all of it. But you have to keep in mind, I've always been a creator. Like, when we were dating, I was creating things and always having ideas and new things that I was working on. We got married, and then I was recording albums with my friends, and I had a blog. So the idea of me being like, hey, I'm gonna go on YouTube and create videos talking about movies, that was never like, it wouldn't be like a surprise. She'd be like, where's this coming from? Like, you having a midlife crisis early? Like, that's not what the response would be. It would be like, oh yeah, another one of Sean's things. So the context in which she's like, didn't think it was going to become full-time is because I had 1,000 things before I had this thing. I even had this thing fail multiple times. You can go on, look on my channel early. There's reviews from before it was Sean Chandler Talks About, where I start off like, hey, this is Sean Chandler's with the non-essentials. Like, you can check out the earliest videos on this channel, and they're not Sean Chandler Talks About. They're like the prototype for this, and they were all failures because I didn't stick with it. So that would be the perspective. And then she's like, oh, he's actually sticking with this one. Oh, this one's actually making a little bit of money. That's kind of cool. And then as time passes, like, I'm going to put more time into this. But she was always supportive.
Are we excited for the 90210 Beverly Hills 90210 revival this summer?
Another one?
What?
Wasn't there one like 5 years ago?
There's another one now. I don't know if there's another one 5 years. I should, in theory, be the right person for this, but I
Why would you be the right person? Did you watch the original one?
That's what I'm saying. But some of my friends did.
You're the perfect audience because your friends watched the show 25 years ago? No, I've never watched one episode of the original.
Are people our age supposed to be fans?
Yeah, like
that's
all,
what I mean.
all of the people that I, all my ROTC friends, like they seem to like comment on stuff like that.
All I meant is that I'm technically in the right pool for that, but I never watched it.
Yeah, I've never seen a single episode, so I don't care at all.
I think probably the most information I've ever gotten about it was when the guy from it died recently.
Yeah.
I thought that was really sad. What is the most overrated movie?
Overrated's not a useful term because you have to you gotta narrow things in a little bit. Because a lot of times overrated you could box, like, people are like, Avatar's so overrated. Avatar made a lot of money, but I don't know a lot of people overrating it. I know a handful of people that are like, oh, I love this movie, and everyone else is like, really? You love Avatar? Like, it's good, but you love it that much? Like, people treat them like they're being weird when people freak out about loving Avatar. And then other movies, it's, you can think Black Panther. A lot of people thought Black Panther was overrated because it got Oscar buzz. And got 95%, 96% of Rotten Tomatoes. But then you can go on YouTube, you can find no shortage of people that are like, this movie's not good. This movie's like, so it's overrated is such a tough one. So, La La Land is one that we thought was like best musical in 50 years. Are you sure about that? I don't know about that. Like, good, some cool performances and cool visuals, but I don't know. It seems a lot like people in Hollywood, like, we have sacrificed so much for our art. What we do is important. Like, when I see Hollywood people making movies to celebrate themselves and then giving awards to the movie, celebrating themselves, celebrating, like, come on. You're rich people. Is that not enough for you? Stop telling yourselves that you're awesome. And it's a good movie. It's just like best musical in 50 years. I don't know about that. But that's not the most overrated movie of all time. That's just one that I thought recently was overrated. But the most overrated movie of all time, of course, would be the whole Harry Potter franchise. Next up.
You're just taking digs. You were just so nice, and then all of a sudden...
Oh, it's because my nose itches.
What are your thoughts on Happy Death Day 3 in its early stages?
Is it in its early stages? I read the lead actress put out a tweet that had a lot of bite to it about how no one went to go see the second one. The second one had a big box office drop. So I don't know if they're. I haven't heard that they've moving forward on a third one. Obviously, the second one ended there, but I don't know that that's happening. Because of where the second one ended, I of course won it, and I had fun with both the first two, so I'm game for it. But I don't know that that's happening.
Do you like Knight Rider?
Knight Rider is one of those old shows that was on when I was growing up, so I watched a good bit of it. My actually stronger Knight Rider memory connection is a made-for-TV movie they made in the 90s called Knight Rider 2000 with Mitch Pileggi, who went on to be a Skinner on X-Files, was the villain in it. And the car was dismantled and put in a new car that was red. I had a VHS tape that had that recorded on it. So I actually watched Knight Rider 2000 more than I watched the original Knight Rider.
Isn't that the, oh shoot, I can't remember. It's like, as Stanton used to say it, negative Ghost Rider? Is that the same? That's not the same thing. Would you rank, sorry, clearly I'm done. Would you rank Rocky training montages?
Like right now?
No. Would you consider doing it?
If I didn't, I mean, it's possible something like that could happen. Creed 2 came out the same week, same day as Wreck-It Ralph 2. Ralph Breaks the Franchise. And other things came out right before and after it. So and it was Thanksgiving. So it's just a busy little window. So I couldn't do extra stuff to do that. It was on my radar. I think I might have even started some notes on it. I just don't know. I don't hate the idea, but it seems a little bit narrow in focus. So, that's my little story on that one. I did think about it. I did put some notes to all right, should I do best battles? And it was too busy of a little window.
Do you like Tombstone?
Pizza? Yeah. Love Tombstone.
Tombstone.
Oh, the movie. Yeah, I haven't watched it recently enough. So it's one that, I watched and was like, oh, that was pretty cool. But it's not one that I was ever this important big movie for me. And so I haven't really watched it anytime recently. So I don't know how much I currently like it. Yeah. Did you have a question? Super chat. What do you got?
Gaming Chef. Please watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. so you can rank. It's fantastic.
I've watched the first 12 episodes. It was not fantastic. It's definitely, the first 12 episodes are definitely not fantastic. I've been told after episode 17 it gets better. I've been told after season 2 it gets bad. I've been told after season 1 it gets good. The problem is it's a show that I didn't naturally immediately like, and people keep telling me, just keep pouring more time into it. And if I watch 70 hours, if I watch 100 hours or however long it is of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I can rank the seasons. 100 hours of a show I haven't liked thus far to do one video. How many videos am I not going to do while spending 100 hours watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? A lot is the answer. When people are like, are you gonna? Can you rank the Shrek movies? Can you rank?
That's come up a couple times.
Yeah, and every time it does. The Kung Fu Panda. Can you rank Godfather movies? All three of those trilogies combined, 20 hours. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., 100 hours. That's the math of it. It's just a ton of work for a show. Hey, Doggy Bo, what are you doing back here?
Oh, no.
This Scooter.
Just leave him alone.
Well, he walked on camera. I thought that he wanted to be famous. I didn't know that he was just a confused old man.
Do you have a favorite Seinfeld episode?
Soup Nazi.
Oh, good call. What is on your hat?
Frontier Camp, Grapeland, Texas. From back in my youth pastor days, that's where we did our winter retreat in January's over MLK weekend. I did 3 retreats that I led that were at Frontier Camp. And the last year I went, they gave me this hat as swag, and they gave me a hoodie as swag. And during wintertime, the hoodie that I normally wear is my Frontier Camp one. It's great, and this hat is great. So these are from January of 2016, and they're still the ones that I are my default.
Thoughts on Scott Pilgrim versus the World?
Is that a person that's like
They love
declaring world? Oh, the movie.
Yes.
Or the graphic novels.
I believe the movie.
Yeah, it's a very cool little movie. I've seen it a number of times. The style to it is really cool. With this weird video game graphic style and the coins when people are hit. All of that stuff is just amazing what they were able to visualize. But the story isn't one that's like, oh, I just can't wait to go back and watch this thing. It's fun to watch now because of how many faces are in it. They're just, whether you're talking about Chris Evans just showing up, Anna Kendrick's in it, some Brie Larson in it, tons of people are in it, and just these like throwaway little side roles in it that it's a neat little deal.
Most underrated Bruce Willis movie?
Underrated Bruce Willis. That's a niche little deal. Die Hard 5. That's just like a classic that everyone writes off as being garbage, and it's my favorite of the franchise. I don't know what would be an underrated Bruce Willis film. Because I think about the smaller things all the things you're in that I'm like, these are really good, people talk about, and then there's a bunch of stuff he's in that's garbage from the last 5 years, and then there's a bunch of stuff that's kind of mediocre, but it's treated as mediocre. So I don't have one that comes to mind. It's like, here's the hidden gem of Bruce Willis movies. That's not what his career is like. It's the stuff he's good in and the stuff that he's in. People know about it.
There was Scream 5 movie was canceled. What?
There's no Scream 5.
What do you think of the Scream 5 canceled movie?
I don't know what that is. I mean, Wes Craven died several years ago, and Scream 4 came out almost 10 years ago, so I don't know what they're referring to.
What movie do you and I disagree about the most?
She has really weird niche like things that make her just not like things, or she just doesn't. It's tough to always know why she doesn't like things. So like, thought it was crazy for liking Dumb and Dumber earlier in this conversation. But it's like, this is a movie that a lot of people really like, but she acts as if it's surprising that that's a movie that I like, even though it's a comedy that came out.
We've ever talked about
but then randomly she's like, Tommy Boy, she's, and I don't know what would be like the thing that would distinguish between these but that's because I know you get weird about it. So I don't bring up Dumb and Dumber. I'm not like, let's watch Dumb and Dumber, because I don't want to have this weird Dumb and Dumber conversation. But it's kind of weird that the degree to which you don't like Dumb and Dumber is very random, especially with the confidence. So she got a bunch of things like that. What?
With what?
Confidence.
Oh.
It's like, what?
It's been a long time since
what?
I've seen
You don't like Dumb and Dumber? What? Or you like Dumb and Dumber? What? It's not a surprising thing that I like Dumb and Dumber. Yeah, I don't know. You'd have to, what would you say?
I have no idea.
Because there's just a lot of things that like, I know what she's not going to like, so I don't put it on. Like I've tried to be like, hey, just watch John Wick, but skip over the first 10 minutes. And she'd be fine with it, but if we just watched it, she'd be mad at me if I didn't tell her what was about to happen. But it just hurts.
I think you've been relatively conscientious about what we've watched together, like, for my taste. I think the only thing I can think of off the top of my head was Frailty.
Yeah.
And that wasn't something we really disagreed on. I watched the whole thing. I just kind of hated you afterwards.
Yeah. But if you want a good date night movie, check out Frailty.
Nope.
Especially if your significant other is weird about death, check out that one. And children endangerment and children killing people.
And an unreliable narrator. Hate Iris or Felicity from Arrowverse?
Felicity has the higher highs and lower lows. So early Felicity would be the easy winner. Late preachy Felicity would be the easy loser. And Iris, I didn't like that they made her like the leader of the Team Flash, but I never like hated Iris. I was never like, Iris sucks. I just was like, why is Iris in charge of the team? This is weird. This is stupid. But that's not against her. That's against the writers. Felicity, they made her insufferable at times. So
True.
Let's just forget that seasons 3 through the end of Arrow exist, and we'll go with Felicity.
Are you excited about SpongeBob?
No. I've never seen an episode of SpongeBob.
The movie.
I've never seen a movie or any. I've never seen any of the stuff.
Do you think the mid-budget movie is dead? Or
Yes.
Is John Wick just an anomaly? Is that two different questions?
Well, it's phrased as if they're contrary ideas, but they're the same idea.
So John Wick is an anomaly.
John Wick is an anomaly.
Because
The mid-budget movie is dead. Just look at the box office. How many are they putting out that are that budget? I mean, John Wick comes out. I don't know what the budget is. The budget for the first one was $20 million. The budget for the second was $40 million. This one might have a $80 million budget. Probably doesn't. It's probably like a $50 million budget. Detective Pikachu, like a $150 million budget. John Wick 3 and Detective Pikachu open to the same amount. That's a testament to how good strong the John Wick franchise is. But that's not normal. That's at the studios are putting all their eggs into one basket. You've got horror movies that still do kind of the mid-budget. Comedies still do mid-budget. But even like dramas, they're all like small things. You look at what's nominated for Best Picture, it's a bunch of like stuff you've never heard of. There's a lot of things like that as a big portion of the list. And so I think mid-budget movies are disappearing. And some of that's because of premium television. You have things like Game of Thrones now. You have Breaking Bad. You have really great television that's filling that void, so people don't pay as much money for it. There was nothing. We are so spoiled in certain regards into what's on television right now. Like the fight choreography on Arrow, like even something like Arrow that you could pick on for stuff they do. There just wasn't anything that was really doing that type of fight choreography 25 years ago, like at all. Nothing close to it. And then Daredevil, nothing was doing what Daredevil does. Did. I forgot for a second there. I had a moment of joy. I forgot. It's not coming back. Wow, life is tough sometimes. Life is tough. But, so I think those movies are just disappearing. And I think it's the stupidity of I'm losing it. I guess I can only do so much live streaming before my brain loses it. I absolutely think they're disappearing. Yeah.
Hector's on. He said,
Hector is on?
Why are you doing live? Been sick. Hi, Hector.
Hey, Hector. Hector was my supervisor when I worked at Sherwin-Williams. So, him and I drove around with a bunch of paint for 2.5 years straight. So, fun times. And then he was one of the people I went to go see Endgame with. So
he's super fun to sit next to during movies.
Yeah, that was a fun theater. So he was next to me, and then a few seat over was my buddy Andy that does some stuff on my channel. That was a fun movie right there. Fun audience for a great movie.
You were next to me. He was next to me. It was you, then me, then Hector.
I was watching the movie. I guess you were just staring at people and not paying attention to the film.
Oh, my word. Didn't your wife watch Pitch Perfect like 3 times one night? Yes.
Yeah. No, and
More
it's
than that, actually.
Yeah, so we didn't see it in the theater. Had heard things about it, got it from Redbox or whatever. Put it on. I don't remember if I even finished watching it that first night or if I fell asleep. But I woke up 2 hours after I fell asleep, and she's in the middle of the movie. Okay, that's weird. And then I fall back asleep, wake up 2 more hours later, and she's in the middle of the movie. Okay, that was weird. Wake up 2 hours later, and It's in the middle of the movie. Like, what is this? So the next time, I'm like, what just happened? Like, why did the movie on loop? She said, oh yeah, I kind of just kept watching it a little bit. But it's like, oh wow, so you really liked this movie because you watched it 3-4 times in one night, back to back to back to back. I've never done that with any movie. You must have really liked it. No, I didn't like it that much. It's not like it's something I'm excited about. Like, you just watched it 4 times in a row. Yeah, I didn't like it that much. I mean, she did. I don't know what that was. Like, it's like the weirdest lie I've ever heard in my life. Like, I didn't care all that much about it. Like,
there was no reason to lie about it. It served me in no way. I don't even know. And I thought I was telling the truth. This is the worst part. I was lying to myself.
That's why I was one of those ones who was like, she doesn't feel like she's lying to me. But what? And like she still does, still puts it on all the time, like at nighttime before bed.
There was another time too that I watched it like a zillion times because we were under a severe thunderstorm warning and I was flipping out, and so I just watched that all night long while I stayed awake.
It probably keeps you safe too.
It just kept me distracted.
Oh, distracted. That makes more sense.
Yeah, thanks.
I was like, I don't know what you're talking about right now.
Do you like planes, trains, and automobiles?
Yeah, it's probably the best Thanksgiving movie of all time. It's a small category of films, but that's it's a great road trip movie. It's real heartfelt. I love it. It's one that I have nostalgia for. Like my family watched it way back in the day, and then they're like, "Oh wow, there's a lot of language inside of this film I forgot about." It a movie came out right afterwards called Uncle Buck. And so that one didn't age as well, didn't become as much of a classic, but Uncle Buck came out, and I think I saw that one in the theater. My dad was like, yeah, it's basically planes, trains, and automobiles. So I had certain memories from my childhood about it. And, yeah, so I'm a big fan of that one. She apparently didn't watch it growing up.
Mm-mm. Do you play any instruments?
Yeah, I play a guitar. I shred on the guitar, totally. I've done tons of music. Like the music on my channel, my intro music and outro music, I wrote and programmed that kind of on a whim. It's weird to think that I've spent years writing songs that no one's heard, like 3 people have heard. And I had a song that I wrote that I never did anything with it really, but I shared it with some friends, and a couple of my friends who are better musicians than me played it live and did some stuff with it. So like 200 people heard this one song that I wrote. And then I wrote some intro music for my channel, not really even thinking that was going to be in. Millions of people have heard it. That's a weird thing to think about, but yeah, I play guitar would be the instrument that I play. Got a super chat from Artur Mansouri. Favorite movie pre-1970s. Love your channel. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Pre-1970s. Probably A Fistful of Dollars. It's probably where I would go. Clint Eastwood, the first of the spaghetti westerns, Fistful of Dollars, A Few Dollars More, and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Sergio Leone, that first one, A Fistful of Dollars. It's a remake of Yojimbo, the Akira Kurosawa film. That's probably what I would lean towards. I'm not a big classic person though, so I try to make that clear. Like I'm not like the snooty cinephile or anything like that. So the pool of older films that I go to is not terribly deep, but those classic Clint Eastwoods.
There's a lot of people asking for your favorite endgame moment. Sorry, I don't know if you would answer that or if that's a spoiler or where we're at.
Yeah, I mean Hulk dabbing. I think we all agree on that, right? Right. I would probably go with the send-off to two key characters that, because it was the payoff of 11 years in one case and 8 years in the other, where they set up certain things in the cave in the first Iron Man, and then he comes back and he has certain conversations with Pepper, and then he does the final line in the first film, I am Iron Man. And they set all these pieces up that are paid off so well that, he's like, I was brought back for some reason. Like I'm living, it's got to mean something. And all of it pays off so well. And it's worked so well. So well. So well. I'm repeating myself. So well. Likewise, they set up certain things with what does Captain America value, care about, and love in the first film of his, and they've kept going back to it. He hasn't moved on from the person that he cares about, his history, his past, and so where that ends as well feels like a nice send off.
Can I call 9 minutes?
Is that a person?
No. It's 9:51. I'm just gonna say we wrap it up in 9 minutes.
Okay, me too. That's what I call it too. I called it first.
Oh, good for you. Have you seen James Mangold's 3:10 to Yuma?
Yeah. We saw it in the theater and everything. Very cool movie. I actually really like. I've liked his stuff since Copland. With speaking of actor people, Robert De Niro and all them. Copland, one that he did where Stallone put on a bunch of weight, the not so good kind. He said it was his favorite exercise diet routine he's ever done because he sat at home eating ice cream for 6 months straight. Real cool little cop drama. But so then, 3:10 to Yuma. It's not a movie that I like go back and rewatch a lot. It's not like this, high end is throwing on the background, but the handful of times we watched it, really enjoyed it. Bought it right when it first came out and everything. And pretty cool to see it. Watching it now, seeing what Christian Bale was trying to do with his career so that he didn't get locked in as just superhero guy. It even seemed pretty cool in the spectrum of his career.
Do you like Steve Martin movies?
I mean, it's not a genre. There are Steve Martin movies that I enjoy. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. To even more recent, I mean, The Jerk, I think, is just hilarious. Even the Cheaper by the Dozen movies, I think, are good. Stuff where he's like partnering up with Queen Latifah, not my cup of tea. Some of the stuff he does just doesn't work, I don't think. But he can be really funny and seems like a quirky, interesting guy. Like he took up the banjo on a whim 20 years ago or something, and now he's a world-class banjo player. Like stuff like that just kind of makes him a fun, interesting character. That's Mr. Welling told that at the Comic-Con about Cheaper by the Dozen, where he just saw Cheaper by the Dozen had starred Tom Welling and Steve Martin. We were at a Comic-Con a couple weeks ago where Tom Welling was at it, and so we were in his panel, and he just told this story about Steve Martin. And he just walks around a corner between takes, and Steve Martin's just sitting there playing the banjo, like crazy good, shredding on the banjo. And it's like, what? When did you take this up? 20 years ago, I thought to myself, if I take up the banjo now, I'll be really good 20 years from now, and I am. It's just this very weird, random little story that happened. Super chat from Tyler Beck. Have you ever thought about making a movie? Yeah, I mean, tons of times. I mean, I've done tons of script writing projects and sort of scripted little short things. My buddies and I frequently talk about if we could like pool together $50,000, $30,000 or something and make a movie. And I outlined a story, wrote a 10-page treatment of it, and I just don't know that we'd ever have the time to like block off to make something like that happen. It's not an easy thing to do. Movies, unlike the reason that I enjoyed a lot of the stuff that I create is because at the end of the day I can be like, I did something, it's done. With a movie, you spend 2 years on it and maybe nobody sees it. Like I write a song, you can do it in a day, I can record it the next day and nobody hears it. Okay, a day or two's gone. A movie, you'd spend 2 years on it, no one sees it. It's like, what just happened? A big chunk of my life. So that's kind of the thoughts on, but I've thought about it many times.
Would you enjoy Thor and Guardians of the Galaxy?
Yeah, sure. That's what I've said in my predictions of what I thought was going to happen, and his rapport with them, some nice energy. So totally I'm on board with it, and it's already been fun with what they've already shown, and that clearly seems to be where things are headed.
I know nobody asked me, but as long as Star-Lord isn't obnoxious and insecure.
Yeah, nobody asked you. I don't think they'll lean too far into that. I mean that wasn't James Gunn writing the script. He punched up some dialogue and but the plot points and direction, I don't know, was necessarily him. So I can't imagine that they would lean into that in Star-Lord's own movie.
When we have a podcast.
Probably give it a try going into the next school year. So maybe going into August, late August, early September. Give it a try. It'll have to be after the summer movie season when things slow down, so there's not the urge like I have to get this content out because it's going to be big hit content. So things slow down. I have room to breathe, but I also have to find additional paths to put content out to people. That's probably the window where I would try and launch it, and it would be like probably a once a week deal. But I haven't come up with the format would be for a podcast. What would be my distinct, unique thing that I would do. So that's kind of the problem. It's like people, hey, you should do a podcast. You can talk about stuff. I can, but what am I going to talk about every week? I'm not sure yet. And we're talking about movies, okay, but what am I going to talk about? What's the format? What's the structure? What's the template? I don't know. So that's part of the other part of the problem here. But I actively started it. It's like on the board, whiteboard right there. That you can't read it. There's a section that says not to do yet. Like it says not to do ... yet. And the first one on there is a podcast. When I went full time on YouTube, I actively told myself I'm not going to work on writing a book. I'm not like I literally wrote that. Book's the one right underneath it. I'm not going to create a course. It does say third channel, and I have been doing stuff with the third channel, but that's tied to some other stuff. But like podcast, I was like, I got to hold off.
What is a Marvel movie that is not currently in the works that you would like to see?
X-Men in the MCU, Fantastic Four in the MCU. I mean, sometimes people I think normally are looking for a deep cut on these ones. Like they want me to say, like, I want Beta Ray Bill the movie. Like exactly. All the kind of deeper cut stuff. That's not what I would be as interested in. Like I could say things like I always want another Punisher movie, but like I'd like another Blade movie, but I'd prefer those actually to be keep them on Netflix, give Blade a Netflix series, do their magic on it. So I don't really have a good, interesting answer for you, unfortunately, because the stuff that's not in the works, there's normally a reason for that they're, or we're talking about there's things that whether you're talking about X-Men, Fantastic Four, it's like it's gonna be in the works. So. Question other than what do you got?
Suggestion: rank Star Wars, Avengers, Indiana Jones, Mission Impossible, and Ghostbusters. I believe all together.
Yeah, sometimes you'd be like, "Hey, can you rank these two franchises together?" I have no interest in doing that. That's not interesting to me to rank arbitrary things grouped together. Like here's a junk drawer of franchises. That doesn't. There's not a when there's not some unifying thing pulling them together. It's just not interesting to me at all. Like what you could do, like the MCU and DCEU together. There's nothing about that interests me at all. Like I see no benefit in doing that. There's not like a new angle on it. So like in a couple days, I'm going to do top 15 blockbusters, but the angle is I'm going to talk about both the movies and how much I enjoy them, but also like it's weird that this movie's on the list. It's like this is a random one of all the things on here that seem obvious. This is on here. So and talk about stuff like that. But when you just talk about here's 5 random franchises thrown together, what's the category? What I have to have a category. So
okay, we're right at 10 o'clock.
Okay, do you have a good final question for me?
Advice for an upcoming entertainment YouTuber like me?
I have a third channel actually, called Real Creators. I've got a video that's my 7 tips for when you're starting. I've got some clips from a talk I gave at a Comic-Con giving some tips. I've got some interviews that one's up now, one will be up shortly. With some other creators. There's a bunch of stuff on there that I've done. You can just search for Sean Chandler YouTube channel, movie channel type thing. There's an interview that I did 50 minutes long talking about all of it. So there's a bunch of stuff out there where I've talked about it. to give you the quick take on if you're looking to start, what to do, try a lot of stuff. Get a lot of at-bats. You just need to do a lot of stuff to get good at it. You have to do a lot of stuff to make a bunch of mistakes, to embarrass yourself in front of people, to learn not to do it. And just keep doing it. Try different things. Throw a bunch of things at the target and see what sticks. Once you're like 6 months in, keep looking backwards and reverse engineer the success that you've had. I looked at my channel and I put out a review, it gets 100 views. I put out a ranking, it gets 500 views. 100? 500. 500 is bigger. I should do more of these rankings. These do better. I made that change, and then within 2 years, I was full-time on YouTube. So try lots of things, analyze what happened, look at your analytics, pay close attention, keep improving. When you're starting, you can rip people off. That you don't want to do that long-term. That's not a long-term strategy, but when you're starting, you can copy people. No one's watching. It doesn't matter. And you can learn from it. Learn what you're good at. Learn what you enjoy doing. And you form your own style by trying lots of different stuff. That's my advice for you. Thank you, everyone, so much for tuning in. If you want more of these more often, I do them every Saturday over on my Patreon page. There's only like 10 people in there, so I answer all of your questions, and we can go back and forth and interact. And I say something, you respond back, because I can respond to every single thing that's in there. If you enjoy this, I highly recommend checking that out. Thank you so much for watching, subscribing, getting us to 111,000 subscribers. 111,000 subscribers. That's amazing. Thank you so much for making it happen. And I'm going to go and stop rubbing my nose on camera for people.